Hi, I'm Ron Greenbaum, the Basement Doctor, and I've also been called a serial entrepreneur. I own the Basement Doctor, NAS Distribution, which is a distribution company to contractors, about 2,000 contractors actually across the United States and Canada. And also, I own an advertising agency called Genesis Marketing Group and a variety of online sales companies. So, in this time, we have a lot going on, and fortunately I have a great staff of people that are helping me. But I've been kind of operationally irrelevant in my home in Florida. Now I'm speaking to you from a condo in Ohio that I've kind of sequestered myself into, because I think the most important thing is for me to stay healthy at this point, and at my employees and my team has said, they feel that's very important. So I said to myself, okay, if I want to be relevant again, what should I do? So I'm a list kind of guy. I like to write things down and then kind of cross them off. So I kind of labeled the list the 2020 Corona crisis, and said to myself, well, what can I do? How can I be relevant to all the people, I take it very seriously. I've got hundreds of families that I'm responsible for. And early on, a few weeks ago, I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but the good news is I knew something like this would ultimately happen. So we were prepared for it financially, and that was the good news. So I said to myself, well, what can I do? Well, the first thing I thought was important was keeping everybody safe and healthy. I'm responsible for a lot of families, and I take that very seriously. So it's important that we all stay safe and healthy in this time. Also, I knew that we were a relevant business, and all my businesses were still actually busier than they've ever been, and so I needed to hire the people. And it's been our philosophy always to hire the best of the best at all the companies, but now especially I felt there was an opportunity to really hire some tremendous people and the right people. Second of all, I had to make sure that sales continued at all the companies, so I wanted to again be the cheerleader. I used to be the sales manager for a number of the companies. I've had different roles over the years. Been in business for 34 years, so started out with a broken down pickup truck, and then the rest, as they say, is history. But so sales are super important. If you're still operating, and we are, then we want to make sure in marketing that we're putting out the right message, the message that we're doing things the right way, that you can trust us. And again, having been in business for a long time, the message of trust kind of came pretty easy. And people did. And, I've talked to other people, particularly in the waterproofing industry, that are pretty much shut down because the customers don't trust them to come out. Well, we figured out a philosophy and a way to make sure that we were safe. We used the right PPE, and really actually left their houses safer than when we came in, and healthier. Also, it was important because in order to do things a little differently, all the companies needed different equipment. We're now doing disinfection in buildings, so I had to make sure that we were able to get PPE equipment, which, obviously the hospitals are the first line, but really we were kind of in there for the first, second line, and I'll say. And so to do that, we basically had to pay cash for everything, and I understand that. So I wanted to make sure that, if we were eligible for any money, that I went to my CFO and said, hey, how are we? What are we doing? And, again, I guess we've always put things away for the rainy day. So at this point, and we're a month or a month and a half in the mission here, haven't had to even use a credit line, which is pretty amazing, but we're prepared in case. So I had to make sure that that was relevant, and that, again, owning a wholesale company, we wanted to make sure that we didn't squeeze our people that were out there to the point where they couldn't do business. Just because I have to prepay doesn't mean that they can afford to prepay. So each person we talk to, and again, we're coming from, we want to help people. We want to help them stay in business. We want to create business opportunities. That's what we've always done. So we have a real positive attitude about that, and we care a lot about our customers, whether they're residential or commercial or contractors, people that have done business with us for years and years. So we focused on that, and what is also happening is because we've pivoted in our business offerings, and I think that's important for all companies to look at what is their offering. Can they still offer the same thing they did before this crisis? And so we looked at that, and we're finding out that we're acquiring literally hundreds of new customers. And so and this is really important, because a lot of the existing customers that I work with are not relevant businesses, and they're pretty much shut down, or they're just maybe doing a few service calls. So if because I do again own a supply company, we've got to make sure that we're relevant to those existing customers plus the newer customers. So it meant requiring a lot of people putting in a lot of hours and a lot of time. But the good news is, people are, they want to work. We hired the right people initially, and we're hiring more and more of the right people. But we just tightened things up. We tightened up our receivables. We tightened up how we're paying people. And it's all positive. And again, I'd like to think that this is an opportunity. It's tragic. There's no question it's tragic, but it's also an opportunity to be relevant, to be positive, to put messages out. And I want to encourage everybody that's out there. One of the things, again, in staying healthy is looking at, where should I reside? How's my life changed? How the people that work for me's life changed? And understand that, in the service business, there's a lot of people that are afraid to come to work. They're afraid to go now. And I've told all the leadership of all the teams, you got to take that into consideration. We're not them. We cannot hold. So we basically took our HR people and said, okay, we want to send a positive message out. It's okay for you not to work. You don't have to worry about it. We get it. You all have personal things. However, if you do, I'm going to pay you hazard pay. I'm going to make sure that, and you're going to help us make sure we're still here, because we don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. But what I do know is all of us can make a difference. And particularly if you're business owners, you can make a difference for hundreds and thousands of people that work for you or customers of yours. And the most important part of all, as a business owner, you've got to make sure that you have enough working capital to make all this happen. And again, I've always been one to say I knew this day would come, so the reserves, at least for me, are there. But if you didn't have the reserves, figure out a way to get them. And there are a lot of great programs out there right now. And Brian, this is wonderful that Brian has put these messages out. I know I've been talking maybe a little bit more about what I've done and what you can do as a business owner, but I think that's important. That I've gone through a lot. I'm 68 years old, and I've been through a number of recessions, 9/11. I've been to the point early on in the early 90s where I had a banker say you're out of business and you don't even know it, because at that point we weren't doing things necessarily the right way. But here we are, 30 years later, still in business, thriving. And the good news is we can all come out of this in a real positive way and make a difference in the world. So again, thanks, Brian, for this opportunity.